Yo, what's up teman-teman? Balik lagi nih sama channel saya. Jadi kali ini saya akan membahas tentang perdebatan muslim versus ateis. Nah, jika teman-teman sudah penasaran dalam video ini, tapi sebelum kita memutar videonya, alangkah baiknya jika kalian like dan subscribe dulu channel ini. Mari kita kembangkan channel ini bersama-sama. Oke, lanjut saja ke videonya.
So I, as a Muslim, the way I approach science is this. I approach science not as something which should take somebody away from God, and which is something which really annoys me when people try to use science as a tool to get people away from God. Science is a way of worship for me, because discovering about the world, understanding about the beauty of the world is something which should bring us closer to God rather than further away from God. Just recently I was reading about a beetle, and this beetle actually has these two liquids. It's called a bombardier beetle, right? It's got these two liquids in its butt, or whatever it is, right? Yeah. And what it does is it has this explosion chamber. It sticks them in there, an explosion happens, and boom, it attacks its opponent. Now when I look at that, it reminds me of the creative power of God. Yet we have people today who, when you try to look at nature and try to remember God and think, you know, look how amazing nature is, you have people who say, no, you can't do that because Darwin showed that there's no God, or Darwin showed that you can't reflect about nature in that way.
That's a silly argument.
That's a silly argument. That's all I'm arguing against.
Yeah.
So
that's all I can give you.
So now my question would be, like, why me, or why would anyone say leave a book or a creator as the model for their, you know, for their worldview, yes.
Okay, the thing what you have to do is you have to first go back to the belief in God, because without the belief in God, no claim makes sense from that perspective. So the question fundamentally is this: is there a God? For me, I would say God is a self-evident reality. God is not something which needs evidence. I have the concept of right and wrong within me. Right and wrong is not within a test tube. I don't have to measure it. You can't get a pH level of right and wrong. It's something within the human being, it's innate. So belief in God is a self-evident reality. It is true. Now, if I say come across someone who doesn't believe in God, I would simply say is this: the Quran tells us every single human being has an innate belief in God, which is sometimes covered by societal pressures and philosophies and ideas. And this the Quran refers to as the fitrah, the natural state that the human being is in. And what the Quran says is, when the human being, even if the human being is a disbeliever, when they get into trouble, and the Quran gives the example of being on a ship, and when you're on a ship and it's about to sink and there's waves and waves and waves coming, what happens? People turn to God. Save us from this and we will be grateful. That's what it says in the Quran. So the fitrah, which is the natural state that you're in, it can come out in two ways. When we use logic and reason, it can uncover the fitrah. When you have a spiritual experience, the fitrah is uncovered. So what I would say is just horses for courses. Some people are very spiritual, some people are very logical. So maybe you're more of a spiritual person. Maybe you need to have spiritual experience to have an awakening. I would ask you, go home tonight, bow down to God and ask God to guide you, because the Quran says whoever God guides, no one can misguide.
Well, so I have been doing that for a Christian God.
Look, there's no such thing as a Christian God. There's God. But look, Christians, Muslims, Jews believe in the same God. All you need to do is this. Don't say, I'm asking the Christian God. Say, I am asking God. And I believe Hamza, you know, you're telling me about your story. He used to pray to just God.